Hello everyone, I'm thrilled to welcome you to our 2020 Walking Together virtual experience. While this setup is a lot different than what we had envisioned for our event, we're incredibly thankful for the technology that affords us this time to communicate with you. No one could have predicted this time last year that our world would be changed before our eyes, making it risky to gather. Nonetheless, we didn't want to miss the opportunity to connect with you. Our mission of Families Helping Families has always been critical, but it's more critical now than ever. Today, we want to update you on the meaningful ways we've been able to help others. In a moment, Greg Colliner, President of AlterCare Integrated Health Services, will introduce to you some of the remarkable individuals that capture the heart of our mission. Before I turn it over to him, I want to extend our deepest gratitude to all of our sponsors who have converted their sponsorship to an outright donation. On behalf of my family, the Schreer Group family of companies, I want to thank you. Your unwavering support makes an incredible difference in the lives of our team members.
Thank you, Jerry. I echo those sentiments of gratitude to our donors. We cannot do what we do without your support. Hi, I'm Greg Colliner. I'm going to be guiding you through the rest of our time together today, where you can expect to hear from people who have been touched by your generosity. I want to mention that anytime throughout this video, you may make a contribution to A Jerry's Footsteps. In doing so, your gift powers our mission to provide funds to employees of the Schreer Group who direly need it. These employees are you and me, figuratively and literally. They're hardworking, passionate, and community-loving people. When they ask for help, we are pleased to provide it. And thanks to donors like you, we can.
Hi, my name is John Schwartzinger. I worked for Absolute. I was PTA and also the rehab manager at both Country Lawn and then AlterCare Parkville for 20 years. I managed the therapy department and I also treated patients. About 2.5 years ago, I was diagnosed with a kind of a serious life-changing diagnosis, and I was unable to work for a while due to the treatments. And I didn't really even think about applying for it, but my supervisor, Jason Musney, he recommended that I do, and I'm glad he did. This grant was very helpful, came at a good time. When I ran through my short-term disability, all of a sudden I was faced with all the out-of-pocket and expenses that were covered by the insurance. And then eventually I had to go on COBRA, and it was very helpful. It was something I really appreciated. I would recommend that you do look for assistance. I mean, it's there. The company actually, Mr. Schroyer and the company, they actually care about their employees. And I believe they want you to use it. It's anonymous, and it's very helpful. When Jerry first started up Jerry's Footsteps, I started donating. I mean, it wasn't a large amount, I never missed it, but it was there when I needed it. I recommend everybody try to donate. You never know when someday you might need it. I thought I was doing fine. I didn't see this coming down the road, but I really appreciate what was done for us.
The pandemic hit me pretty hard. I'm a registered nurse, and I was the nurse for all of my patients who had the coronavirus. So unfortunately, a lot of our long-term patients had that virus, and at home, I'm a single mom I still got 2 kids at home, and trying to do online schooling along with, my full-time job, and I work a lot of extra hours at Altar Care of Nobles Pond, so it made it quite difficult to get everything accomplished every day. But it was a very nice sentiment where somebody was doing something for us. We're always, all the nurses, the aides, the dietary, the people who clean the building, we're always doing things for others, and it was so nice to have something that was done for us. I actually didn't have to go out and buy groceries and spend that time away from my family and my job. And it is very difficult as a nurse trying to stay safe at that point in time, going to a grocery store and making sure that I wasn't around anybody and they weren't around me, and staying a safe distance away. So, and they gave us so much food. It was amazing. I'm still thankful that they did that. It was amazing. I work with a lot of employees who are disadvantaged. When the pandemic hit, they didn't have as many hours as they were getting. So these groceries that were given to us, though it meant the world to me, it meant even more to so many people that I work with, because they didn't have the money to go out and purchase groceries.
I provide physical therapy for the geriatric population and the skilled nursing facility population to allow them to gain more independence so that they can return home. So my hobbies that I like to enjoy are painting. I use acrylic paint and I do fluid art, and I use canvas to do that. I'm a mother and my son is 24, and so cannot believe that I actually have a 24-year-old, but I do. And then my other project that I'm working on is I am a co-host of Behind the Service podcast. And it's a podcast with myself and two other veteran caregivers. One is in Oklahoma, one is in Florida, and I'm in Ohio. And what we do is get on the podcast and talk about the tough stuff that veterans and their family members face, veteran caregivers face, from their veterans coming back from war. So I knew about the grant because I work for the company and I actually am a donor as well as an employee. And so I knew that that was available and that service was available to us. And so a few years ago, my husband, he's a Army veteran, and he was struggling with brain injury and his PTSD. And he struggles all the time with suicidal ideation. And what we chose to do was go away to a wellness retreat, the two of us, and Jerry's Footsteps offered to allow us to do that, take the time off of work, and they provided airplane tickets to the event. Being able to go to the program, the wellness retreat, was so beneficial to not only myself, but to my husband as well. It allowed us to be around other veteran spouses and families in order to reconnect between the two of us as well, and to provide any kind of tools that we would need in order to be successful going further in our journey. And just being able to have that support from Jerry's Footsteps to provide the financial assistance for us to do that was super beneficial, because it allowed us to not focus on the financial aspect of it or the burden of that. And so it was nice to be able to have that available to us so that we didn't have to worry. That it's okay to ask for help and to not be embarrassed when you feel like you need assistance, because that is why the grant is there, is to provide assistance to people who may need that. Reach out to somebody if you are struggling, and yeah. I would say thank you to the donors that are supporting this fund, because without you and without your support, there would be people that were struggling that may need assistance and do not have that. And so by providing sponsorship and donorship like you do, it helps people like myself and my husband to get support and assistance that they need.
It takes courage to speak about our experiences. Thank you, John, Tracy, and Libby, for sharing your stories with us. Friends, right now I want to share an experience that I've had within Jerry's Footsteps. At the end of 2019, my family and work family suffered a significant loss. The loss of my nephew, Rusty Hawes. Rusty was an extraordinary person, a light to his family, co-workers, and the patients he interfaced with at Alder Care of Hartville. His untimely passing left his expectant wife Megan and little boy Lewis in unimaginable grief. The In Jerry's Footsteps grant was able to help her focus on her newborn baby girl and her son. I had the opportunity to speak with Megan about the impact of the grant, Rusty's life, and more. Let's take a look. Your story is one that's been inspiring to many individuals throughout the Share Group, as well as throughout your family and friends as well. So thank you for coming to tell us a bit of your story today. So first thing that I have found interesting is your pathway to your career, your academic preparation that brought you to the Share Group, and what you do with the Share Group now.
I have a bachelor's degree in exercise science from Slippery Rock University. And I started at the company as a pharmacy technician back then, and I have been here throughout the time.
When was that?
In February of 2008, I started with the company.
So you've been here a while.
Just a little bit. I also have a master's degree in adaptive physical activity from Slippery Rock. And then I taught in a school for a couple years, and I decided that wasn't for me, and I went back to school and got an associate's in physical therapist assistant, and I hope to continue that within the company.
So your entire journey has been one that has prepared you to take care of others. Yeah. So you can tell us a little bit about how you came to connect with In Jerry's Footsteps and what it meant to you.
Russell and I have been a part of In Jerry's Footsteps annual fundraiser for the last several years, and just as Rusty said last year at the fundraiser, he said, Megan, next year we'll both be working full time, so we'll be able to set up an extra amount that we can just bless people with next year at this fundraiser, and we can bid on all these things. And as we were walking out, he said, this is going to be a fundraiser that we attend yearly so we can help leave a legacy for these people that we work with, because their lives matter. Never did I think I would be sitting in the shoes of being blessed, but I'm thankful for the people that have donated and continue to donate, because not only did they bless me and my family, but I know they're blessing others throughout this company. And I couldn't say more positive things about the company and what they've done for their employees. When the whole situation happened where Rusty had his stroke, it was very unexpected. We had no idea how long recovery was going to be or what the outcomes were going to be. And that night he had to have brain surgery and have 40% of his skull removed. And the only thing I could think of is the dollar signs that were coming. And that he was going to need extensive rehab. And at that point, I said, we'll figure it out. And I had a couple of coworkers approach me on how to get an application, how to apply for it. And I kept thinking to myself, we don't need it that bad. Like, we'll be okay, we'll figure it out. There's somebody else in the company that needs it. And as we sat in the ICU for 12 days and saw progression of his recovery and then saw some declines, I was really praying to God, just saying, what should I do? How should I do this? And it was really God-led told me, just apply. People want to help you, let them help you. So after that, and at that point I had to make the decision to take Rusty off life support. I just knew that getting some of this money to help financially was going to be something to set my kids and myself up for the future.
Pause that. Let's talk a little bit about Rusty. And that's, that's just thinking of him brings smiles to a lot of people's faces. It was not uncommon at all that when I would visit the Hartville facility, that I would see Rusty with the residents, which a great deal of what Rusty's responsibilities were demanded he really be buried in the charts.
Mm-hmm.
But he would not pass on the opportunities to meet with the patients, be engaged with patients. And on one of my last visits there, after Rusty had passed, walked into the front door and there sat a resident who knew that I knew Rusty. And we talked a little bit about it, and he was very complimentary of just how smart he was, how caring he was, how funny he was. And that does not happen for all people in all buildings, but it happened for Rusty because he made that kind of an impression on the residents that he really did not necessarily have to do, but it was in his nature. There were no indications that this life-changing event was in the mix, and yet you were faced with it. So, and you faced it with courage and inspiration. And you're still inspiring to people throughout the Schwer Group in your ability to continue to navigate forward, to raise your two children. Tell us a little bit about Rusty's kids.
We had a 2.5-year-old son when Rusty passed. His name is Lewis. He was named after Rusty's grandpa, who had passed in February of 2019. He loved his dad. I was jealous of the bond and the relationship Rusty had created with Lewis. It was walking in the door, Dad, Daddy, Daddy. I walk in the door and there was nothing. No, there was some, but it just wasn't that fun response that he would give Rusty. But Rusty was the cool dad, I'm gonna do this for you, and I'm gonna take you, and we're gonna make memories, and I'm gonna be there every step of the way for everything that he did. Rusty put Lewis to bed every night for me while I was in school so that I could study while he was going to bed, and just those little things that some fathers don't do. He stepped up and he did it. And Lewis has asked about Daddy. He still brings Daddy up, and it's a blessing that he remembers Daddy, and I think he will continue to remember Daddy through the memories. Yes, we talk about those memories, but he remembers a lot, and he is going to turn out just like his dad, I think. And that's a blessing for me, because then I always have that part of Rusty with me. And then we have an 8-month-old girl named Eliana that Rusty didn't get to meet. So I was 29 weeks pregnant with Eliana when Rusty had his stroke. I was 31 weeks pregnant when he had passed. And leading up to the end of October, we had just solidified the name of Eliana. And Eliana means God has answered. And we always picked names that had a strong meaning. And I think that even though in the hard time of Rusty in the ICU, God had an answer. The answer was giving me the blessing of a daughter that would help heal where I where I was gonna lose some love and lose Rusty. But I think that with that and knowing that he did answer by giving me this blessing, and it was just, I know Rusty is with her. And everybody these days that tell me that Eliana is starting to look more like Lewis and Rusty. It used to be Eliana looked like me. And I think as she's growing older, she is looking more like Rusty. And I hope she gets the smarts as Rusty and all those good qualities in Rusty.
So let's talk a little bit about the grant. It's there for these types of life-changing situations. You told us about how you became aware of it and how you and Rusty had contributed to it. Can you tell us a little bit more about how it impacted you in this event?
I was able to focus on the kids, focus on my health as I was finishing pregnancy. It was just a relief off of my shoulders of how am I going to pay this medical bill, or how am I going to pay for a funeral. And I knew I was going to have a hospital stay coming up and going on 12 weeks of maternity. And we had planned how we were going to make that work when it was the two of us. And that was all thrown by the wayside. And we had to come up with a new plan. And I was stressed, to say the least, financially. And receiving that letter, it was just a blessing. It felt like there was a weight lifted off my shoulder. It felt like I was able to focus my attention on something else. Focus on getting Lewis to a point where he understood that Dad was in heaven, and give him all the love and support he needed. It was right before Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's, so that was hard. And I was worried, how am I going to supply presents for Lewis for Christmas? And luckily there were other people that stepped up to help with that. But I just felt so much relief.
What would you say to individuals who are faced with life circumstances that the grants could be helpful? They're considering applying for the grant, but they have apprehensions about asking for help. What would you say to those people?
It never hurts to apply. There's nothing that is too small in life that's unexpected, and there's nothing as big as what I experienced. There's so much in between, and not everybody in the company knows who applies and who doesn't apply. And I mean, my story was a little more unique because it was a loss of another employee here. And so my story was out a little bit more than others, but you don't hear stories about people applying without your willingness to talk. I know you've touched on it about how Rusty was smart and he made the impact on residents at Hartville, and that is all true. And Rusty started with the company in 2006 in the pharmacy, so he had the privilege of working with many of the people that I still work with, and that's a blessing because they knew him, so they can help me keep his memory alive. And back in the day of Rusty's college days and him being a prankster, he always pulled pranks in the pharmacy, and he was always just that fun-loving guy who just wanted work to be fun, and he would shoot rubber bands and do some things just to, keep life interesting here. He just had that care for life, and he cared so much about the residents and at Hartville, where he spent most of his time as a nurse. And I remember when he got offered the position, he kept saying, "Megan, I don't think I can take it because I don't get that interaction with the residents like I do on the floor." And after some talking to and understanding, he decided to take it, and there was no better fit for him in a job. Like, he loved that job. He just really valued creating relationships, keeping relationships, and providing whatever needed to be done at that time.
So Megan, there's a lot of people, I'm one of them, who's been on this journey with you for for many years. And the most recent events, the loss of Rusty is certainly a tragic, heartbreaking story. But you also are able to show us the heartwarming parts of your experience, the gratitude and appreciation that you've expressed for those who have helped, really the love and the caring that Rusty was always a big part of, but you continue. I was watching a 9/11 anniversary show last week, and one of the survivors of 9/11 said, well, what was your takeaway? And he shared with the audience that live well, love well, and you can be certain that you've made a positive difference in this world. Rusty certainly did that, and you continue to do it. So thank you for telling your story. Thank you for watching this presentation. It means so much to us at the Schwer Group. It means even more to the people you've heard today. Before I leave, I want to encourage you to make a contribution to In Jerry's Footsteps. Your gift touches the lives of someone who is going through a very rough time. The truth is, the power of your gift and compassion is undeniable. Thank you for joining us today, and be safe.